First know about the CB1 receptor. In your unstoned, sober body, your CB1 receptor is affected by a neurotransmitter called anandamide, which controls generation of pleasure, motivation, and feeding behavior. In your unstoned body, anandamide is released after exercising, and it's what causes a runner's high. THC's structure is so similar to anandamide that it fits in perfectly to the CB1 receptor, therefore causing you to feel high. CBD, on the other hand, because of the hydroxyl group, is different in shape and does not fit into the CB1 receptor, therefore it doesn't make you feel high. But CBD does bind to other receptors in your cannabinoid system, affecting you in other ways. A lot of excitement came around a 2011 study where a few dozen people with social anxiety disorder were asked to speak in front of a large audience. Some were given CBD, some were given a placebo. Those who were given CBD reported significantly less anxiety. There are also many animal studies showing CBD's anti-anxiety and anti-inflammatory properties, which can explain why some people say it helps with their anxiety and with chronic pain. Research is also discovering that THC can actually aggravate psychotic symptoms, while CBD, on the other hand, may help with psychosis. So what happens when you consume them at the same time? One study found that due to CBD's biochemical shape, it can actually bind to the CB1 receptor and turn it off in a binding pattern known to biologists as allosteric inhibition. This means that CBD actually makes the THC unable to bind as well and therefore decreases how high you feel. If you vaporize marijuana with 25% THC and 0.1% CBD, you will feel high, as the THC is going to bind to the CB1 receptor with little interference from CBD. If you consume marijuana with 25% THC and 12% CBD, this more CBD will inhibit the THC from binding to the CB1 receptor, decreasing THC's effect and leading you to being less high. Where marijuana is legally sold, likely they will indicate what percentage of THC and CBD is in the product you are choosing, which will help you to understand the effects it will have on your body. In the end, THC is a chemical found in marijuana with a chemical structure that makes you feel high. CBD is a chemical found in marijuana with a different chemical structure that doesn't make you feel high, but it can affect your body in other less obvious ways. There is still conflicting research and a lot more to understand about both chemicals. With more states and countries legalizing marijuana, hopefully increased research can uncover more details about how these two chemicals affect us. Because weed is now legal in Canada, we created a new series called Stone Science, where we make comedians get high and try to explain complex science concepts. Our first episode is about the respiratory system, so click here to watch it and let us know what you think as we continue to evolve this new idea.
These are two drinks from the same store. They're the same in almost every way, but this one cost $3 extra. All it took was a few drops of this stuff, CBD. It's a cannabis compound you can buy in oils, chocolates, bath bombs, face masks, gummies, coffee, lotions, even dog treats. It's everywhere, and its proponents claim that it can help with a lot of things. CBD exists right at the intersection of three huge consumer trends: the $49 billion herbal supplement industry, the growing anxiety economy, and the almost overnight rise of a legal cannabis marketplace. There's still a lot we don't know about CBD, but people are buying it. This is how much consumer CBD sales have grown in the past 4 years, and this is how much they're expected to grow. For a product this popular, CBD is barely regulated, and people tend to misunderstand its effects. So what do we know about it? CBD, or cannabidiol, is one of over 110 chemical constituents in cannabis called cannabinoids. THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, is a different cannabis chemical that causes the high associated with consuming marijuana. But by itself, CBD won't get you high. You can inhale it as a vapor or apply it to your skin, but a popular intake method is edible oil, since CBD is naturally soluble in fat. That easy-to-consume format is behind the explosion of many new products we're seeing today, but it's also led to a lot of misconceptions. For starters, people say CBD can treat everything from inflammation to acne, even cancer, but there's no proof that consumer CBD products can treat all of those ailments.
We don't have that much data related to the therapeutic effects of cannabidiol.
CBD has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that have been shown to help treat psychosis, anxiety, movement disorders, multiple sclerosis, and epilepsy and seizures. And the FDA recently approved Epidiolex, a CBD-based epilepsy drug. But there isn't enough research for CBD to be prescribed as medicine for all of those other conditions. Right now, we don't know a ton about how CBD affects the brain, or which doses or delivery methods work most effectively. And people who take CBD sometimes do it at risk to their own health, forgoing medically approved treatments or failing to investigate its interactions with other drugs. And the CBD that's trickled down to retail markets, it's largely unregulated. Because of that, consumers often have no idea what they're buying, and CBD products often don't contain what they say they do.
A, they might not even have the cannabidiol that is claimed on the label. But more importantly, B, is that some of them actually have THC in it.
In 2016, the FDA issued warnings to 8 CBD oil companies after finding that some contained either no or barely any CBD, and some contained illegal amounts of psychoactive THC. And a 2017 study of 84 CBD products purchased online found that almost 70% were mislabeled. But even when consumer CBD products are accurately labeled, the doses tend to be very low. When you get a few drops of CBD oil in a drink, you're probably getting about 5 to 10 milligrams of CBD. You'd need 30 times that to reach the amount of CBD that researchers have found to have stress-relieving results. So even though CBD has a ton of medical promise, the dose in the average CBD coffee is pretty negligible. But even at those levels, CBD products other than Epidiolex are still technically illegal.
When you go down the street and you buy your latte with cannabidiol, that is still considered federally illegal. At the state level, it might not be, depending on which state you're in, but federally speaking, it is still illegal.
The DEA maintains that CBD is federally illegal, but it won't bother going after anyone possessing it or using it. And because the DEA won't prosecute, anybody from any state can walk into a store or go online and buy CBD products. Attitudes in healthcare are shifting. In December 2017, the World Health Organization concluded that CBD is not harmful. In January 2018, the World Anti-Doping Agency removed it from its prohibited substances list. And if passed as it stands, the 2018 Farm Bill would legalize CBD and industrial hemp nationwide. CBD isn't bullshit. It's a substance with a lot of potential, but the quantity and quality in today's consumer products is often more of a scam than a reliable wellness supplement. What's next for CBD depends on research. But right now, its popularity is proof that the absence of data doesn't prevent people from selling products. Instead, when you can claim everything, you can sell anything.
This is not marketing.
No!
Prepare for learning.
The inside story of cannabidiol. A couple of years ago, a remarkable thing happened when CBD became legal in all 50 of the US states. If you remove CBD from the THC coming from the cannabis plant or the hemp plant, CBD is now legal to use as a nutritional supplement. Since that time, of course, the market has exploded with interest. And this conversation today is about the physiological effects of CBD on the human body. Truly, CBD is not just another nutritional supplement. This short conversation is going to accurately describe the intense scientific research that's going on around the world, but in simple language so that everyone understands of why CBD is so important for human physiology. In order to comprehend the significance of CBD to our health, we first have to ask the simple question, what exactly is our health? Is it just the absence of disease? If you don't have symptoms, you must be healthy? Well, it's actually a far more important question and a deeper question than just that. How does human physiology actually work? How is it designed? In general, every aspect of human physiology is based on the balance between polar opposites, between the yin and the yang. This creates homeostasis. When we look at specific parts of our physiology, like the immune system, the yin and the yang, the opposites would be anti-inflammation and inflammation, the negative and the positive. When those two things are in balance, your immune system is functioning properly. If we're talking about our nervous system, then we're talking about the forces of excitation and the forces of inhibition or relaxation. When we're talking about our endocrine system or our hormone system, We have the forces of breaking down tissue, or the catabolic hormones, and we have the anabolic hormones, which build up tissue. When those two forces are in balance, we have homeostasis of our endocrine or hormone system. If we're talking about oxidation, we have forces of antioxidation and forces of oxidation. Most people think that you have to just take buckets full of antioxidants all the time as if oxidation is bad. Not true. If you didn't have oxidation and the forces of oxidation in your bodies, you couldn't survive even 1 minute. Those two things have to be in balance. They have to be in homeostasis. All of our physiological systems have to be in this constant state of homeostasis, a dynamic balance. The stronger your physiology's ability to stay in homeostasis is, the more robust your capacity to be in homeostasis is, the healthier you are. Next question. What exactly is dynamic balance? This is kind of difficult to understand, and the best way is a model of a mobile. So here we go. We're looking at a mobile. You've probably played with this when you were a kid. Perhaps you even have some of these in your home right now. We have all of these horizontal elements with little strings hanging down from them, and we have these stars hanging at the bottom. In this particular model, the stars represent signaling molecules. If this is a model of your neurology, the stars that are hanging would be the neurotransmitters. If this was a mobile of your endocrine system, your hormone system, then the hanging stars would be hormones. And if this was your immune system, the hanging stars would be cytokines or lymphokines. These are the signaling molecules that make your immune system work. Now, what makes this a dynamic balance is, as you know, if you change anything in this mobile, it affects everything in this mobile. Let's say, for example, that the star down here at the bottom, that's now big and swollen and red, gets weighted down as if you took a paper clip or some weight and attached it to the mobile hanging in your home. That star is going to pull down and everything in the mobile is going to shift. You can't change any one element without affecting every element in a mobile. What's interesting, however, is that initially the mobile is going to go through these oscillations where things are bouncing up and down and shifting up and down until the oscillations slowly quiet and the mobile finds a new point of homeostasis, a new point of balance. Now everything is shifted in the mobile. The stars are all in different locations now, and many of the sticks are no longer horizontal. They're kind of twisted at one angle or another. But our physiologies are so smart that they will find a new point of balance. During the shifting and the oscillation is when you feel sick, when you have symptoms. But our body, our physiology will compensate and the new balance will be found and you can continue to function. Now let me explain how modern medicine with pharmaceutical drugs interacts with this system. Let's say you have another one of these stars, another one of these elements that goes a little bit haywire. This star over here on the left. So you're feeling lousy and you go to the doctor, and the doctor does some kind of test and decides, okay, we need to give you a drug. And so you take a drug, some kind of pharmaceutical drug, to deal with this one element over here on the left that's now gone somewhat haywire. And the drug is designed to clamp down on those symptoms. Notice that the drug is designed to deal with exactly that one star, not the entire system of the mobile, but that one star and the symptoms that it's creating. However, we know that pharmaceutical drugs have many, many unintended side effects. And so, because of the drug you're taking now, another star goes haywire, and you have more symptoms, and now you have to take a drug to counteract the symptoms in the first drug. And so you clamp down on that star as well. And then a third one goes haywire. And so you clamp down on that one as well. And let's say now you seem to be stable, you seem to be functioning, and everything is copacetic. Well, is it really? Everything seems to be stable here because the mobile isn't shifting anymore, but let's take a closer look at your system. This is what's actually happening. You now have all sorts of artificial weights attached to your physiology, to your mobile. You can see that your physiology is under a lot of stress. The weight of all these different drugs and these overexpressed stars are pulling down heavily on this mobile, and you can see that some of those bars are now bent because they're under so much tension. One more little thing going wrong with your physiology. Perhaps it's something as simple as a cold or a little virus, or some kind of drug interaction that you didn't anticipate, and now something breaks. This system is under so much tension and so much stress that the oscillations would be huge, and you might find yourself in the ICU under life support. So in a nutshell, pharmaceutical drugs work at the level of the symptoms, not the systems, which causes enormous strain on your human physiology. So I've showed you this in order to point out, to highlight the differences between how pharmaceutical drugs work at the level of the stars and how CBD works. CBD, instead of working at the level of the stars, works at the level of the system of balance, at the nexus of balance. That would be in these crystalline green orbs where the string attaches to the stick. That's where the system knows if it's in balance or out of balance. It can't tell what's happening at the level of the star, but it knows what's happening right there in that green crystalline orb where balance is maintained and established. So in the model that we are using, the mobile, to highlight how our physiology works, that's where CBD works. Now, in our actual physiology, where does CBD work? Let's take a closer look. Here we go. We're going to travel into our physiology, right into our central nervous system. And we're going to see at the level of individual cells that the cell surface is covered with these green receptors. These are receptors for CBD. And when the CBD binds to that receptor, it sends a message into the cell, which travels all the way down into the nucleus of the cell, where the intelligence of our entire physiology is contained within our chromosomes. So here a chromosome is going to unwind, and you're going to see the actual DNA that contains the codes for everything that our body does. This is like the software that runs our physiology. Genes are the codes for every protein that our bodies make, including all the signaling molecules that run our physiology, such as our neurotransmitters that run our nervous system, our hormones that run our endocrine system, and our cytokines that run our immune system. So imagine, for instance, that these are cells in your pancreas making insulin. This is happening in 1 million cells, let's say, all producing huge amounts of insulin to keep your blood sugars in proper balance. Again, your insulin is a hormone, which is a protein. So we see that throughout our physiology, we have receptors specifically designed to bind with CBD, and CBD has its effect on the nucleus of our cells where proteins are being made. So which proteins are being made from the influence of CBD? CBD modulates the transcriptions of over 1,100 genes that make the signaling molecules that naturally reduce inflammation in our central nervous system and throughout our immune system, restoring homeostasis to both our immune and to our central nervous systems. So as you can see on the left side of the slide, CBD upregulates the genes that create anti-inflammatory biochemicals for our immune system and upregulates the GABA system in our central nervous system, which brings calmness to our central nervous system. And on the right side of the slide, we can see that CBD downregulates the genes that create the inflammatory biochemicals in our immune system, and also downregulates the glutamate system in our central nervous system, which causes overexcitation. So now, let's go back to the model of our physiology and see how CBD affects it. We go back to our one star that's out of whack, and now we introduce CBD, and voila! We see a cascade going through all the points of balance in our system, and the mobile comes back to homeostasis, to its original, stable, beautiful balance. Now, our physiological systems are far more complex than the simple mobile that I've been showing you here with only 12 stars. For instance, our immune system has 350 different signaling molecules on it, so it's an enormous mobile. which also explains why there's so many unintended drug interactions. Because if you affect any one of those little stars, it's going to shift all 350 of those other stars. And who could possibly figure that out? So in fact, here's what our immune system actually looks like. And of course, when you introduce CBD to our amazingly complex physiology, in the immune system, the cascade of homeostasis trickles down through all 350 of those stars. It's a beautiful thing. Bottom line, CBD causes a cascade of homeostasis through our entire central nervous system and our entire immune system. So why is this happening? Because as I mentioned before, we have receptors in our physiology for CBD. This is called the endocannabinoid system. Back in medical school, we didn't even know about the endocannabinoid system. It was only discovered in the 1990s by Dr. Raphael Mechoulam from the Hebrew University in Israel, where an amazing amount of incredible biomedical technology and innovations are coming from that tiny little country. So the endocannabinoid system is a network of cells throughout our body that have receptors for CBD. In fact, there are more receptors for CBD in our body than any other kind of receptor. So the endocannabinoid system is truly the largest network of its kind throughout our entire physiology. Among other things, Dr. Mechoulam also discovered that we make our own cannabinoids in our body. This is anandamide and 2-AG. Anandamide is something that we create when we're meditating, hence it's called the bliss molecule. And 2-AG, as well as anandamide, are released in mother's milk when a child is breastfeeding. So no wonder that child is so calm and happy when they're breastfeeding. Those two compounds are also associated with a runner's high. You know that point when you're running and suddenly you're in bliss, you kind of break through the wall and now you just feel wonderful? Those two are the natural cannabinoids that our own bodies make and bind to our CBD receptors. So here we have our CBD receptors in our central nervous system and in our cardiovascular system, where immune cells are constantly circulating. Of course, in our bone marrow, where the cells are actually manufactured. And of course, in our immune organs. Our major immune organs are the intestines, the spleen, and the bladder. And last but not least, the lymph system. So our bodies are filled with CBD receptors. So what? Now you know the story. Why is this important? Why does this matter? Why is this important to you or me? Or if you're interested in the business of distributing CBD, why is this important to humanity? If you live in urban America or urban anywhere in the world, you are inflamed. Your central nervous system is inflamed, as well as your immune system is inflamed, and nobody is exempt because our physiological systems are under assault. Assault from environmental toxins such as herbicides, insecticides, and heavy metals, chronic biological infections such as bacteria, viruses, fungus, and molds, and last but not least, our inflammatory diets, which are very poor, usually way too much sugar, which causes leaky gut, an inflamed gut that allows certain bacterial infestations to occur that gets into our blood, into our systems. So, what kind of symptoms, what kind of stress do all these things cause to us? If your immune system is inflamed, you might be suffering from autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, inflamed bowel disease, lupus and thyroid, or fibromyalgia, or even MS, and your skin, psoriasis and eczema, and all sorts of other chronic infections. Do you realize many of these things didn't even exist 100 or 150 years ago? Incidence of these kind of diseases is growing throughout the last century because of the environmental load of toxins that we are now absorbing into our systems. Now let's take a look at your central nervous system. If it is inflamed, what kind of things might you be suffering from? Brain fog, migraines, epilepsy, anxiety and PTSD, ADD, ADHD, autism, and insomnia. Again, 100 or 150 years ago, these kind of symptoms, these kind of diseases were really rare. And over the last 150 years, because of the insult, the ongoing insult to our systems, these kind of things are more and more prevalent with every single year. So, if you are suffering from any of these conditions, any of these symptoms, CBD might provide you with tremendous healing, tremendous relief, right through your own natural endocannabinoid system that brings homeostasis, both to your immune system and to your central nervous system. So in conclusion, what have we learned from this conversation? That health is achieved through physiological homeostasis, right through our natural endocannabinoid systems. And therefore, CBD is an indispensable catalyst for optimal health. You are welcome to submit your questions and testimonials in the comments section below. Give us a couple days and we will answer them.
Everywhere you turn, there is someone talking about CBD right now. The hard part is when you're looking at the effects of CBD on the body, there's only so much that can really be talked about. See, there's a lot of censorship because it's so close to cannabis. It's very difficult to talk about CBD. So what I wanted to do in this video is I wanted to break down the science of how it truly works in your body. I want to do this because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I also feel like we need to understand that endocannabinoid receptors in our body are a natural thing. And endocannabinoids are a natural thing that are existing in our body. So in this video, what you're going to see is ultimately an overview of what happens inside the body with endocannabinoids, with different adenosine receptors, with different serotonin receptors, glutamate, dopamine, all the things that actually make your body go round when it comes down to endocannabinoids. So first off, what we have to talk about is what exactly is CBD. All right, CBD is the non-psychoactive component of cannabis. Okay, so CBD oil is usually extracted, and it's the component that doesn't have an effect like THC. So it works on different receptors within the body. Most of us know this by now because we see influencers all over the place talking about CBD, and they're all acting like crazy experts. The thing is it goes a lot deeper than the fact that it's just not THC. Okay, there's a lot that goes on in the body. So how exactly do these endocannabinoid receptors work within the body? See, we have two different receptors. We have CBD1 and CBD2. And these are all throughout the body. They're not just in the brain. Okay, they're not just affecting the psychoactive portion of the body. Okay, they are affecting the brain, but also even more so throughout the course of the body in our inflammatory system, in our immune system, and everything that we need to know there. Okay, CBD1 is found mostly in the brain, however. So CBD1 is the one that affects your mood, it affects emotion, it affects a lot of things when it comes down to your appetite, even coordination, movement, and pain that relates to your brain and how you perceive it. Okay, then we have CBD2. CBD2 works on the body, works on inflammation, works on the immune system. And there is a correlation between CBD1 and CBD2. They communicate, of course, but one is more so for the brain and one is more so for the immune system and for the body. And what you're going to find is that THC activates both of these. But here's what's interesting. Do not believe all of the marketing that says that CBD oil only affects CBD2 receptors. That is not true. That's not how it works, okay? CBD2 receptors have to do with the immune system and inflammation, like I said. But CBD oil does not directly affect CBD1 nor CBD2 receptors. It doesn't affect them at all. See, what it does is it influences the body to naturally utilize more of its naturally occurring endocannabinoids. See, endocannabinoids are things that our body can create, but we also get them from food and various polyphenols that we consume. It's a totally normal, natural thing. Whether our body uses them is a completely different story. So CBD oil influences the body to utilize more of the endocannabinoids that are already existing, therefore enhancing how those endocannabinoid receptors, particularly CBD2, actually utilizes them. So it's not directly affecting the receptors the way that THC would. But how does it actually work in the body? I'm talking about receptors, and that's all fine and dandy, but what physiological effect does this have? Well, here's the interesting thing. Even though you have a natural utilization of these endocannabinoids, it doesn't necessarily mean that the endocannabinoids are the end-all be-all. You see, it's the byproduct of this. It's the utilization and the activation of vanilloid receptors, of adenosine receptors, and serotonin receptors that ultimately give us the sensation and the end result that we are seeking when we look at a CBD oil. Okay, so the vanilloid receptors end up working with body temperature. they end up working with helping you regulate that system within the body. Also helping you regulate inflammation through different ways. If we have a higher core body temperature, it's going to affect our inflammation. If we have a lower core body temperature, it's going to affect our inflammatory levels within the body. So these vanilloid receptors play a key role, and they are directly correlated with the endocannabinoid receptors. But here's the really interesting one, adenosine. How many of you have ever had a cup of coffee? Or how many of you have ever had caffeine at some point in your life? Chances are you have, so you know that excited, excitatory feeling that you get. But what happens with adenosine is you end up blocking adenosine with caffeine. Caffeine blocks the adenosine receptor, which therefore means that you get more excited, because adenosine would normally make you relaxed. So if you have a lot of adenosine in the body, you're relaxed, you might even be sleepy. But caffeine blocks that receptor, which therefore makes you more energized. Well, CBD affects the adenosine receptor by increasing the activity of it. So you might be wondering, well, does that mean it's going to do the opposite of caffeine? Well, kind of. It's going to do the opposite of the bad effect of caffeine in some ways. You see, when we actually have caffeine, we are basically blocking that adenosine receptor and therefore triggering a secondary response. We're triggering a secondary response of excitatory catecholamines. What that means is adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, all of the catecholamines that cause us to have this heightened sense of awareness and alertness. That is what's giving us the energy. It's not specifically the blocking of adenosine. So when we do allow adenosine, we don't have the opposite of epinephrine or adrenaline. There really isn't an opposite of it. It's either just on or off. You don't go fully polar opposite with it. So basically, you're slowing down the epinephrine, you're slowing down the adrenaline, and allowing your body to relax. So it's not like you're going to have the negative effect where you're super, super sleepy. You're just getting a calming effect, which is why so many people like utilizing CBD oil. They just end up getting confused as to why it's actually doing it. Then we have to talk about dopamine receptors. Dopamine's a simple one. Dopamine is the reward system within the brain. So by activating dopamine, it ends up allowing us to feel better all the time. But it allows us to naturally utilize dopamine. We're not taking exogenous dopamine. We're not taking drugs. We're not taking recreational drugs, things that are actually causing us to have more dopamine. We're naturally increasing the body's utilization of existing dopamine by enhancing the receptor sensitivity. Okay, and in that same vein, we also talk about glutamate. See, glutamate is something that is excitatory. Glutamate actually triggers energy, but too much of it is a bad thing. Too much glutamate can lead to a seizure, can lead to all kinds of bad things. Glutamate is not what we want a lot of. However, the right amount of it can trigger energy in the right places. So when you think about the calming effect of adenosine, making you calm, and then you combine it with a specific energy effect of glutamate, you actually have a really unique thing. You're calm, but that glutamate is activating, energizing specific parts of the brain that are correlated with memory and retention. So thereby, you can have the right energy in the brain, stimulating creative process, all while feeling calm. So feeling calm, relaxed, anti-inflamed, yet still awake in terms of your brain. So very, very powerful when it comes to that. Then, of course, we look at the serotonin receptors. Okay, what ends up happening is CBD activates something known as 5-HT1A. 5-HT1A acts in a very similar way as an SSRI, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It allows our body to create more serotonin and utilize it more efficiently. Okay, so that's going to help you feel good. Serotonin is just a feel-good neurotransmitter in the first place. And lastly, cancer. I want to talk about this in a little bit more depth in another video in the future, but basically we have specific signals that happen in the body when it comes down to cancer. Specifically, I'm talking about GPR55. In this case, GPR55 is something that triggers minerals and vitamins to be retrieved from the bones to ultimately feed cancer. That's why when people get cancer, a lot of times they end up getting weaker bones. A lot of times they end up increasing the risk of fractures and things like that. So what ends up happening is CBD reduces the body's ability to retrieve nutrients from the bone to feed cancer cells. This is just one of the many ways that CBD has an effect on cancer, and it's one of the most researched. But of course, I'll do another video in the future that talks about how this actually has a specific effect on a multitude of different things when it comes down to cancer. So I hope that this video broke down CBD as a general overview and helped clear up some of the crazy marketing that's out there surrounding CBD. I can totally understand why Facebook, why YouTube, why so many different media properties and media buying properties have made it so difficult to advertise. And that has to do with the fact that people are really utilizing CBD in the wrong way, and they're marketing it poorly, and they're flat out lying. So this video is just a general overview to help you understand what happens in the body and why it does so. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. If you have ideas for future videos, let me know in the comment section. I'll see you soon.
the latest health trend that everybody is talking about, CBD oil. Now, it comes from the cannabis plant, and many believe it can help with everything from anxiety and chronic pain to diabetes, even cancer. We're in the midst of a CBD oil boom, with products popping up everywhere. Today, Dr. Sanjay Gupta is here to investigate what exactly is CBD oil, and does it live up to the hype? But first, I asked correspondent Marcia Evacampo to find out how big CBD has truly become.
CBD. If you haven't heard of it yet, you probably will soon. The natural herb is taking the health world by storm, with sales of the new supplement expected to grow 700% in the next 2 years.
Wow, you just see great review after great review. I mean, people seem to love this stuff. 4,000 reviews, 4.5 stars.
Short for cannabidiol, CBD is a component of the cannabis plant. Yep, cannabis. But unlike marijuana, CBD does not contain any THC, the psychoactive part of the plant, so it doesn't get you high.
Over the last few years, CBD has started popping up in everything from gummies to face cream to toothpaste. There are even CBD treats for your pet.
So what does it do? Research has been limited, but proponents say CBD has all the benefits of medical marijuana without the intoxicating effects, helping with insomnia, pain management, and anxiety.
There's a revolution, a whole movement happening now with plant-based wellness, which is our primary interest, celebrating the power of all plants, which have not been properly represented.
And the question everyone asks is it legal?
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's medical correspondent, the chief one, and has reported on the latest research behind CBD. So, you know what, break this down for everybody. I'd like to take your thoughts on what it really is so people can get this into their heads.
Well, you think about the cannabis plant, marijuana, it's called cannabis. It really has lots of different ingredients, but two primary ones. One is THC, that's the stuff that's the recreational drug, it's what gets people high, gives them that euphoria. And there's CBD, which is cannabidiol. It's something that doesn't cause a psychoactive component. It's believed to be a medicine, it's been used as a medicine in decades past, and it's getting this resurgence, as you just heard.
Just to be clear, we've talked about medical marijuana in the past. This is not that, right? CBD oil is being sold all over the place.
You take the plant and you can pull out certain components of it. So you're just, in this case, you're pulling out the CBD component and you're just using that and all those other effects that people often associate with marijuana.
Which is why I think 47 states so far have said we're okay with it. How is the medical community using CBD oil?
This is fascinating to me. I mean, if you would have asked this question 5 years ago, it would have basically been crickets. Nobody was really talking about it. Within the last 5 years, you had a medication that was sort of known colloquially as Charlotte's Web. It was for this little girl who had seizures that just could not be treated by all these different medicines she took. Her mom essentially started taking CBD herself in her kitchen sink and giving it to her daughter. That is what was known as Charlotte's Web. Within 5 years, it's gone from being that idea to now an FDA-approved drug in this country. That's fast. That's never really happened that quick.
The government has approved one CBD oil for one indication.
Yes, and this is from the plant. This isn't synthesized in some lab. This is CBD that's actually coming from the plant, from the botanical. So that's a big deal. You actually now have something that's been considered illegal at the federal level, also part of an FDA-approved drug. That's what we're dealing with in this country.
Can you guys wrap your heads around this? This is part of the disconnect, right? The federal government says it's not legal. 47 states say it is. Kids with seizures are being treated. I mean,
and the FDA says, yes, we'll approve it. But still at the federal level, it's illegal. What is starting to gain more traction, I think, really is what's happening with opioids in this country. What they found, Dr. Oz, was that in several states that had approved CBD legislation, they saw their opioid prescriptions start to go down. So that's an area the medical community is really, really focused on.
CBD produces so many effects throughout the body based on the fact it can bind the receptors in so many of our different organs, right? Places as far away as the intestinal tract and your arm and your spinal column, up into your brain. And that's why people say it helps them alleviate pain, right? maybe help with seizures. It's a pretty serious problem for a lot of folks. Anxiety, pretty common problem that we don't want to treat if we don't have to. Even withdrawal from medications, maybe even the opiates, as Sanjay mentioned. But think about that. People think it can do so many things because of the CBD oil that is in there. It's touching so many parts of our body. And I love your thought that we evolved as species because we had access to these natural plants, and they understandably can affect us.
That's right, and the receptors started to evolve in our body as well. We even started making our own form of CBD in our body. But sometimes it's not enough, just like other things aren't enough in our body, and that's why some people seem to get benefit.
So the question then becomes, do they work? So there are products with CBD oil, which again, you saw the theoretical arguments you just made, but these products are popping up everywhere, and some of these are everyday items that you can buy. I have a bunch in front of them. Again, Sanjay and I don't sell anything in this space, but they're shampoos, they're supplements, they're gummies, they're muscle soothing creams. They're even products with your pets, as you saw from Mara's report. So when you look at this, Sanjay, and you realize as a clinician how complicated CBD could be, how do you decide which of these might work?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I'll tell you this, I think, in part from a physician's perspective. First of all, I think that there's a legitimate medicine in here. I think we're talking about something that could actually really help people. And I worry a little bit when you start to see products like this that it could minimize the importance of what CBD could do for people. Because I don't know what these products are. I don't know what's in them. I don't know how much of anything is in them. I don't know if they would actually do anything. I mean, this is CBD shampoo. If I could get shampoo like Dr. Oz's, I'd probably use it. But you know, other than that,
I covet your hair. You should know.
I'm not sure, though. I would have a hard time if somebody came to me and said, hey, should I take this CBD product? As much reporting as I've done on it, I would still have a hard time, saying it's a good idea.
So the FDA is in charge. In fact, it's charged by our nation to tell us the answer to that question. What's safe, what's not? Where are they with all these things?
So this is an illegal substance at the national level. This is
illegal.
Illegal. At the same time, as we talked about earlier, the FDA has said, you know what, we think there's enough of a benefit here that we're willing to approve a drug specifically for epilepsy that's based on CBD.
And part of the reason I wanted to cover this topic is you can buy these products anywhere. Really, you can go down to the store in 47 out of 50 states, buy it online pretty much anywhere you want, and the government's not going to come and kick your door down. So whatever they say at the highest levels, we're still not actually doing anything to stop people from using these, which is a concern to me because it's the wild, wild west. It's completely unregulated. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anything. And remember to check back often and see what's new.
Everyone is talking about CBD and THC, which are two important chemicals found in marijuana. With marijuana legalization becoming mainstream, what is the actual difference between CBD and THC? Inside you right now,